Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we are looking at the Ashes, which is, let's be honest, cricket's ultimate and often most destructive rivalry.
It really is.
And it's not just about winning a trophy, it's the series where careers are made, but, well, more often they are publicly destroyed, especially for the captain.
That burden is huge. And historically, it's operated under a very strict, almost unforgiving law.
Hmm.
If you fail to win the urn, there are immediate consequences.
Right.
So our mission today is to really pull apart that historical pattern, we're calling them captaincy killers, and then use that lens to look at the intense and, frankly, unprecedented pressure on the England Test team right now.
And the stage for that is a really humiliating 4-1 thrashing by Australia in the 2025-26 series. This modern England side under Ben Stokes and Brendon McCullum is facing scrutiny that just goes so far beyond the scoreboard.
Well, absolutely. It's a total inquest into their Bazball philosophy, their discipline off the field, and, whether this whole leadership approach can even survive a total failure in the one series that matters most.
It's important to start with the history, isn't it? Because that really sets a baseline for accountability that feels like it's fundamentally changed.
It has. When you look back, Ashe's failure wasn't a catalyst for a review. It was the trigger for an immediate dismissal or a forced resignation.
The times were just unforgiving. I mean, when you look at the colossal names who were forced out, it really shows how little tolerance there was for losing. Let's start with an Australian great, Ricky Ponting.
Yeah, Ponting's case is a perfect illustration of the unique cruelty of the Ashes. He's one of the greatest captains Australia's ever had, full stop.
No question.
But he lost 3 of the 4 Ashes series he led. The final career-altering blow was that 2010-11 series. Australia lost 3-1 at home.
And you have to remember the context there. That was Australia's first home Ashes loss since 1986-87, a generation.
Exactly. Breaking a 24-year streak of dominance on home soil, it was just devastating.
And it wasn't just the result that time, was it? His own form really suffered under that pressure.
It did, yeah. His batting average declined significantly. And while he kept the limited overs job for a bit, the kind of shame of that home Ashes loss meant he never captained Australia in Test cricket again.
The message was clear.
Crystal clear. No matter how great your record is, losing the home Ashes is the one line you just do not cross.
And on the English side, the pattern was just as brutal, maybe sometimes stretched out a bit more. Graham Gooch is a prime example, an all-time great batsman. But a captain who could simply never conquer Australia.
Gooch's entire leadership was just defined by, futility against the Aussies. He lost 3-0 in Australia in 1991. Then in 93, Australia comes over and just tears through the first 3 tests.
So they're 3-0 down at home.
3-0 down. And at that point, Gooch had failed to win a single test against them in 4 years. He resigned immediately after that 4th test. He just realized he couldn't break them psychologically. The whole team failed, but the captain took the fall.
And if they were examples of failure building up, we have figures who represent the really sharp end of the stick, Mike Dennis, for one.
Oh, Dennis had an absolute nightmare in 74-75. He was facing the sheer terror of Dennis Lillee and Jeff Thompson.
Right.
England got crushed 4-1, and Dennis's own form was so bad he was getting single-figure scores over and over that he took the extraordinary step of dropping himself.
He dropped himself from the team.
Dropped himself. And although he clung on for a bit, he was finally fired when Australia toured England in 75 after he failed again. I mean, the humiliation of publicly benching yourself, it's just a stark marker of the pressure.
But the ultimate benchmark for zero tolerance has to belong to an Australian captain. Bill Lowry holds this unique and pretty awful distinction.
Yeah, he does. Lowry's the only Australian Test captain to ever be sacked mid-series.
Mid-series, wow.
During the 1970-71 Ashes, which Australia lost 2-0, he was just hammered by the press and the board for being too defensive. It was a style they found completely unacceptable against England. He was dropped from the side after the 6th test and never played for Australia again.
That level of immediate personal demolition, it's almost unimaginable today.
It really is.
But for my money, the most ironic moment in all of Ashes captaincy history involves Ian Botham in 1981, because for him, failure was actually the greatest catalyst for success.
Botham was struggling so badly with the pressures of the job. After they lost the 2nd test at Lord's, he'd recorded a pair of ducks. He just couldn't score a run.
Right.
So he resigned before the selectors could fire him. And that choice to just give up that power, it led to this instantaneous liberation of his talent.
Which gave us Botham's Ashes.
Exactly. Freed from the captaincy, he played with such dominance that England came back and won the series 3-1. That famous 149 not out at Headingley turned the whole summer around.
It's the perfect historical counterpoint, isn't it? Sometimes losing the captaincy is the only way to save your career, and maybe the series itself.
The takeaway from all these figures, Ponting's shame, Lowry getting the axe mid-series, is that the board, the selectors, the press, they held all the power. The captain was disposable.
Which is precisely why the current crisis around Ben Stokes is so completely different. Let's transition to the 2025-26 debacle, where the power dynamics are just, well, they're inverted. England get crushed 4-1. Some said the Ashes slipped away in just 11 days down under. But unlike the past, this failure is tied to this polarizing philosophy, Bazball.
And Bazball, this super aggressive morale-first approach, is now facing its most critical test. It delivered excitement, it delivered early wins, but the big critique after this series is that it became strategically rigid.
That relentless aggression just became an excuse for recklessness. That was Jeffrey Boycott's line.
It was. He said it allowed for no accountability when decisions failed. He was incredibly scathing. He likened a leadership group, McCullum, Rob Key, and Stokes, to three stooges who sold a lie.
Wow. And the commentary really shifted, didn't it? The argument became that the style was prioritizing a vibe or entertainment over just winning ugly when you have to.
Yeah, and that led to this media narrative that the team's atmosphere was almost cult-like, all this focus on man feelings and wellness brand optics, which critics just found, well, obnoxious in the wake of such a big failure.
But we do have to look at the numbers for balance.
We do. And despite that 4-1 loss, Stokes' overall test win percentage is still high. It's hovering around 60%. That is comparable to Ponting's career rate of 62%, which is outstanding.
But those wins aren't translating into sort of institutional success, are they? That's where the details matter.
They absolutely do.
Brutal.
Despite all the excitement, England is currently sitting 8th in the World Test Championship. And here's the crucial detail. They suffered a massive 19-point deduction.
For what?
For consistent slow over rates. It highlights this huge gap between their exciting style and just, adhering to core professional standards.
And Stokes himself was struggling.
Massively. He scored only 197 runs at an average of about 24. He had a groin injury, which basically reduced him to a specialist captain. His job was to create the vibes, not perform as the all-rounder he's meant to be.
And it seems that cultural mandates started to blur some lines off the field, too. The scrutiny quickly moved from tactics to conduct.
This is where you see those professional boundaries really starting to drift. The most serious issue involved Harry Brook, who's this Test vice captain and the T20 captain.
Right.
Before the tour even started, reports surfaced that he was involved in a late-night scuffle with a nightclub bouncer in Wellington.
And the ECB's response was as severe as it could possibly be, right?
It was. Brook got a £30,000 fine and a conduct warning. That is the biggest financial penalty available. The board took it so seriously, they actually considered stripping him of his white ball captaincy. It was a clear signal that they felt professionalism was slipping.
And that wasn't the only incident that raised eyebrows during the series itself.
Correct. The decision to take a mid-Ashes break at the resort of Noosa came under intense fire. Critics said it looked less like a professional break and more like a boozy stag do.
Yeah, I remember the footage that came out.
Old phone footage, yeah.
Yeah.
It showed Ben Duckett in a tetchy late-night exchange with fans, and one of them famously told him to get an Uber to the nets.
Ouch.
It implies a total lack of focus. The leadership had given them all these freedoms, to foster camaraderie, but the argument now is that those boundaries have just drifted too far.
So historically, this combination of a thumping on the field and conduct questions off it would mean immediate firings, no question.
None.
But now we have the modern inversion. The ECB announced a formal review promising changes.
But that review is now completely overshadowed by this colossal power play. Ben Stokes has issued a stark public ultimatum to the ECB.
Which is?
If they sack Brendon McCullum as coach, he will resign immediately as England Test captain.
This is just fascinating. It's the captain holding the board hostage, a total reversal of the Lowry or Ponting dynamic. What's his actual argument for this?
His rationale is all about the philosophy. He's saying that he and McCullum are the right people to carry on, and he argues that going back to traditional methods will just lead them back to the same situation of stagnation they were in before. He thinks they can go to even bigger heights.
And McCullum is backing this up.
He is. He said he's open to tweaks, but he's not content being told what to do by the board. It's a real challenge to their authority.
So the ECB is in a truly impossible position. If they fire McCullum to show some accountability, it costs them a fortune. He's contracted to 2027, and they lose their captain, Ben Stokes.
Right. It forces a total expensive strategic reset with no obvious successor. Harry Brook is still developing.
It's a massive internal conflict.
It is. The board has to weigh this public demand for accountability, and polls show 55% of readers want Stokes himself to quit against the strategic chaos and the financial hit that his ultimatum guarantees.
It's a battle over the soul of English cricket, really. Do you prioritize this revolution in morale, or do you demand strict accountability after failure?
The contrast is just so dramatic. The historical captains resigned or were fired. They accepted the cost. The modern captain, though, he doubles down and uses his own power to protect the coach.
And that contrast brings us back to what actually makes a great captain in the first place.
Exactly. Research from Cricket Analysis shows 85% of people agree a captain affects success a lot. But the most essential qualities cited weren't just aggression or culture. They were making good decisions and, crucially, being flexible and adjusting to situations.
And that flexibility seems to be what broke, that rigidity in the Bazball approach when things went wrong in Australia.
Precisely. So you have a system where historical failure was met with a loss of power, and a modern system where failure is met with the captain consolidating power through an ultimatum.
Which leaves a really profound question for you, the listener, as this inquest goes on. The 4-1 loss and the disciplinary issues, they clearly damaged the Bazball project.
No doubt.
But given Ben Stokes' willingness to stake his entire career on keeping McCullum, does retaining this leadership model despite monumental failure demonstrate a revolutionary, resilient approach to man management? Or does it simply expose a deep structural failure of accountability at the very highest levels of English cricket? Something to consider.